Hello and welcome to the Bitcoin.review podcast, where we explore developments and projects with the people who actually make them happen. The show is supported by Pod 2.0, Sat Streaming, and Coinkite. If you're a new listener, I'm NVK. I run Coinkite, where we've been helping people secure their Bitcoins for over a decade. We make the cold card and fun products like the block clock. You can find more information about it on Coinkite.com. Hello, and welcome back to the Bitcoin.review. Wow, we have some awesome news today that happened yesterday or the day before. But unless you're living under the rock, you're going to know what we're talking about. Today with me, I have Mr. Rob Hamilton.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me again.
The most insured man in Bitcoin.
Most appearances on Bitcoin.review too, probably at this point.
There's that. We gotta keep his ego in check, can't bring that up. Mr. Craig Raw.
Yeah, good to be here again, as always. Let's see what the list has in store for us today.
I know, look at that. So Ross was released. That's kind of a biggie. We've all been waiting for this moment for a long time.
A full pardon.
I know, right?
Not a commutation.
Does he get his Bitcoin back?
Who knows about that? But because it's a pardon, he isn't a felon as far as the U.S. is concerned. So he can go buy guns. He can get a passport. Like he's
normal life.
A normal life.
That was not expected.
No, it wasn't.
And the message that Orange President put out with it was also pretty intense too, which was kind of amazing. Now it's just so fucking amazing to see. Now all we need is Assange to be pardoned as well, and because Assange was just commuted or something, right? He said he was guilty and then commuted, and then what's his name again? Drawing a blank. Living in Russia, Snowden, and then it would be a nice the great cleanup.
Yeah, and the samurai court cases as well. That's the other battle that needs to be fought.
Well, I mean, the Tornado Cash had an interesting update on the case, right? The Department of Justice or some judge, I can't remember now, hard to keep track of this stuff, but they essentially reversed the sanctions against Tornado Cash.
Yes.
It's a huge update.
Yeah, it doesn't actually really help the case all that much, unfortunately. The case still stands, so they still have to fight the case.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But it's certainly good news.
It's good news. It was an absurd overextension of government power to say that you could sanction a smart contract address.
It's insane.
And so that's basically what got checked, being like, if you're going to want to make this illegal, you need to pass a law for this because This is not the intention of what the OFAC list was for.
Yeah, things are a bit out of control, but we'll see. I mean, listen, I think it's like a blue president, red president, orange president. It doesn't matter. Like realistically, government's overreach is just going to keep on increasing. And in my opinion, the only way to resolve that is by creating technology that it makes it impossible to enforce stupidity, right? I mean, there really is no other way. Even if we have some benevolent guy right now, the next guy comes in, reverses the previous, it's a nightmare. Can't live like that. The solution really is to invent the future and then, they can't stop it. It's like, sorry.
That's right.
All right. Coinkite is looking for a new marketing manager position. Exchanges. Oh, yeah. So the BitcoinSecurity.guide, I've updated a little bit. I added a few exchanges that I think are a little bit more ethical and sort of like a little bit better to use. And most of them are non-custodial. So that'll be great. Oh, yeah, and I added some notes there about two-factor authentication, like very basic stuff. You should help people. What else? Check out Olas. It's a new Instagram-like thing for Nostr. Figure I put it at the top of the show because I know everybody who listens to the show is probably an Instagram influencer. I figured I get them a new place to go do it.
And made by the only Nostr dev, I think. I think it's just Pablo.
Yes.
I think that's the entire Nostr ecosystem. It's just Pablo. It's one guy.
He's actually the secret identity for Fiat Jeff as well.
That's right.
Pablo learned Portuguese just to pretend he's Fiat Jeff.
That's right.
And we have a call for guests. If you're a maker working on Bitcoin projects, we'd love to have you on the show. Reach out to producer@coinkite.com. That will be Johnny.
That'd be great to have someone besides me.
Yes.
Rodolfo. This is Rodolfo trying to replace me.
Yeah, I don't know. You're still gonna probably. We need the mini script representative.
That's right.
Yeah.
There are dozens of us.
We did kind of scale the show a little bit down a little bit. We're sort of like doing just every 2-3 weeks and doing a little bit shorter.
That's right.
Because outside of the meme, there is less happening in Bitcoin.
Totally.
For real this time. Anyways. All right, guys. Oh, and I wanted to give a shout out to Alex Gladstein. I went to an HRF event and it was quite spectacular. Those guys are definitely doing some very interesting things out there and helping some people. So I kind of wanted to say that. All right. Urgent vulnerability disclosures. Ledger co-founder David Balland released from kidnapping. So I don't know if we have too much details yet, but he was kidnapped. I don't know if we have actual details of the story aside from these. He was released from captivity on Wednesday. He received treatment from emergency services. I don't know how bad things were for him, physically speaking.
Yeah. A local newspaper, Le Parisien, right, this is all in France, is reporting that kidnappers sent severed fingers along with their ransom demands.
Jesus Christ.
It's rough. It also makes it complicated. You don't want biometrics ideally as part of your security, because if someone's cutting your finger, it's not a good place you want to be in.
I don't want to laugh because this is fucking horrible, but fingers can definitely open hardware wallets that use fingerprints. You can also just take a picture of your finger and then silicon it and do it and use it. It's very easy to foil biometrics. Yeah, no, guys, this is horrible. And it's the first line of security is just don't be public about, how much you have or if you have it at all. If you're not a doxed Bitcoiner, don't become a doxed Bitcoiner. It's super unfortunate. I think we're going to see a lot more. Mm-hmm. It seems that a lot of these cases are growing, France. Is it just me misremembering or we had a few more in France?
It's happening a lot more now in Europe and certain countries like Sweden. They basically open source the taxes for every citizen. So you get I've made this much on cryptocurrency and here's my home address for anyone to go look up.
Jesus Christ.
So there's been a really large spike. And there's also for every one that gets reported, there's 2 or 3 that don't, where people are embarrassed. They don't want to advertise they got hit because they think they may become a repeat target. I've heard a lot of off-the-record stories of people who've gone through similar kinds of incidents and they just don't want to report it because the last thing they want to do is, one, they feel embarrassed, or they don't want to put an even bigger target on their head saying, hey, someone previously extorted money from me. It's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got distracted here because I am arguing for the feature that Rob requested of me just before we started the show.
I think it's a good feature.
We do sign non-multi-sig descriptors.
Oh, single sig? So a single? Oh, you mean not mini script? You just mean single, a multi-sig?
Single sig, yeah. Single sig, so.
Oh, just single sig. Okay.
Mini script people.
Sorry. Okay. Mini script people. We're real people too,
I know.
And speaking of, because it's not on the list, the Crux hardware wallet added mini script support. The Cruxy guys are getting in there.
That's great.
Yeah.
They are a OpenSats grantee. Mm-hmm. We do fund that project. It's a good one. If you're looking for a DIY hardware wallet, I highly recommend checking out their project. Mm-hmm. So yeah, guys, no, this stuff is gonna get worse. So higher security, do proper OPSEC, don't be public about it.
We also had the Spanish Prime Minister this week talking about how there should be no NIMs on the internet, and the government right. should have everyone's real ID, which is an insane concept. But, because of course the government always has your best interests at heart. So why not? It sounds like what could possibly go wrong with that suggestion?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I saw that clip. It's such a classic, right? It's like these guys are a bunch of, little weak weasels that don't want people, really reporting on all the illegal shit that they do as politicians. And that really is the source of all this. They just don't want people talking truth on the internet. As what they call misinformation. is the information. That Europe is really weird. Like this last while, like it's they have this sort of like a ending of Empire vibes in a 100x America kind of vibe. America, for all its problems, at least they know how to innovate and make money.
Right.
Europe seems to be just sort of just whiny. Nothing gets created, made, and things are just fleeing, and good people are fleeing. It's a weird thing. And the politicians, it's like they play a corrupt politician in a whole other ballgame there. They don't even hide.
Yeah, it's strange how a whole society can kind of get into a common mindset that seems so self-defeating from the outside. It's just like, where's this going to go? It doesn't seem very productive, and they seem to have lost a lot of the learnings and teachings that have come out of Europe. They just seem to be sort of ignored now. So it is disappointing to see. Things can always change, and
yep.
If they continue to go downhill, then hopefully people eventually demand change.
Yeah,
that's all we can hope for.
How? European representatives are not even elected. They're going to have to go invade the assembly there or something. Talk about non-democratic systems, huh? Like, wow.
Yeah. The whole EU is like a very strange setup in that you have certain states who are clearly funding other states. And the only way that can persist is if there's just like a collective madness to say that this makes sense. And they seem to have succumbed to the collective madness. They seem to have bought into it as almost like a collective project, as we're going to just do this thing that doesn't make a lot of sense, but let's just see how far we can push it. And this is where we are.
I like to call it's like neo-Bolshevism. Like you have like it's very similar smell, but with like, the people sort of controlling the strings from Brussels. Whatever. That's their problem. Enjoy the bed you made. All right. AxeOS CSRF vulnerability, using CSRF attack to update the payout address on Bitaxe Bitcoin miners. I love it.
Oops.
That's great. Clever one. Yeah, it's the web technology is not a place for Bitcoin to exist. All right, software releases and project updates. AnchorWatch launches US service for Bitcoin holders. AnchorWatch offers a Bitcoin custody service with insured. Jesus, is this PR? Thankfully, we have the founder here who can talk a little bit about the software. Because Trident is actually really interesting wallet service. And Rob, why don't you give us a bit of a background here?
Absolutely, yeah. So this is the company I've been building for coming up now on 3 years. It was initially just an idea, and it's been a long journey at this point. It's exciting that it's now live. Definitely more of the work on the insurance side, in the sense that that's why we're launching now. But yeah, so to talk about Trident Wallet a little bit, and I'll touch on the insurance to kind of speak to this audience. We've basically built out our own Bitcoin coordinator, leveraging Miniscript. And this allows AnchorWatch effectively to do a co-signing like service for the length of your insurance policy. AnchorWatch is required to co-sign, which is a great thing if someone gets your devices, tries to compromise you. Funds can't move for the duration of the insurance policy, but after the end of the insurance policy, you're able to be fully sovereign and spend the money yourself. And as part of this offering too, we can even offer coverage in the event you lose all of your keys, because we have a window at the end of the policy where ourselves at AnchorWatch plus Coin Corner, based out of the Isle of Man, are able to recover the funds and return them back to you. And this is just kind of an interesting way of leveraging Bitcoin native script and kind of vaulting technology that works today without a fork or any changes to Bitcoin, and kind of getting more out of it. So if you sign up as a customer, you also get a Lloyd's of London insurance policy covering a wide range of risks, including direct threats of physical harm, like, wrench attack, which is now more on the uptake in the news. In the event also that AnchorWatch is fraudulently participant in a transaction, trying to rug money from you. And it's just been a really great journey to kind of put all the pieces together and now have it live. Now, I've been onboarding customers over the past 2 weeks. We have multiple customers that are live now. It's just been really exciting to get to this point and be live in market, being able to help people that are looking for a different way to do custody.
All right, tell us how it works under the hood.
Under the hood? Yeah. So under the hood, it's Bitcoin Dev Kit, right? So fundamentally, it's all written in native Rust in Bitcoin Dev Kit and Bitcoin Rust, right? So kind of taking those core primitive cryptography libraries and the, not cryptography in the sense we're not executing signing on the platform, to be clear. Like if our cloud was totally hacked and compromised, there is no key to get. But we basically act as a coordinator for compiling and creating this vault. And we have the customer with their hardware wallet, their signing device, kind of give us their XPubs. We match that to XPubs on our side, and that creates the vault. Additionally, the inclusion of time locks based on when the vault is initiated, kind of working over the following calendar year. Just the two details on the time locks is one, we are using absolute time locks, which is check lock time verify. So it's based on an absolute time in the future. And we're also I'm very confident we're the first to really use this. We're using, instead of block height, epoch timestamp. And the reason why we're using like clock time, wall time, is that it's dated to an insurance contract, right? So the last thing you want to have is a 1-year insurance contract, but then the miners go really fast or really slow on their mining, and then you have a desynchronization. So our time locks are actually pegged to the calendar date time, right? Which is just a fascinating thing, because then when you get to the actual generation of like signing the transaction, if you're using one of those time locked conditions, what you have to alter is in the transaction, there's a field called the end lock time. Now, this is actually Satoshi's original time lock opcode. Not opcode, sorry. It's the original time lock intention of what Satoshi had designed. And you can think of the end lock time almost like a post dating a check. I can send a check today to someone, and I can say it's dated for June 1st, 2025. So if I give you the check today, you can't do anything with it because it's dated in the future. That's kind of the intention Satoshi originally had for it. The problem with this is, just like a bank account, I can go double spend that. So I can go close my bank account before that check is ever able to get deposited. So the update to this we got in Bitcoin was in 2013 and 2014, 2015 were the time lock opcodes. So at the Bitcoin script level, you're now doing the time lock, which prevents someone from being able to move it before a certain period of time. And that's kind of like what we are actually managing under the hood. Is if you're using a time lock layer, we're pinning that end lock time to the value that allows you to bypass that lock time, if that makes sense. So we abstract all of this complexity. So you just have a clean UI. You're able to go through. You're able to also, with what we give you like a recovery kit PDF. You could load that into Bitcoin Core, and you can actually look at Bitcoin Core and look at your node and your funds directly. You cross-verify deposit addresses. You can look at funds and transactions there. In the event our software ceases to exist, you'll be able to still transact the funds. So yeah, there's, at the end of the day, like you have the two most important pieces, right? Is just understanding the keys are secure and they're distributed. And then you also have the output descriptor, which basically is the vault logic itself, right? The moment you leave a single sig in Bitcoin, the moment it's no longer a single sig, you need that output descriptor to be able to reconstitute the funds, unless you have all of the key material. And that's not really an ideal place. So those are kind of like the big, like foundational pillars. And then everything from there is an implementation detail, whether it's getting balances, getting transaction history. A fun, cool thing that I put a lot of thought and effort into, because if anyone's ever used Bitcoin, the most gut-wrenching moment is the moment you send it and you're waiting for the receiver to actually see it on screen. We did something pretty clever here, and it's it's not really secret sauce. I just think this should be standard for any application or wallet. What we do is we actually sit on top with a clean Bitcoin node using what's ZMQ, which is the zero messaging queue system. And what we're doing is we're sitting on top of the mempool, and we're constantly looking to see if a new transaction that's being broadcasted is associated with any of the known wallets for a customer. And so within 2 seconds of a broadcast happening, it is populated and live on your screen. It is instantaneous because we're sitting right on top of that. And the same side too, when you do a spend, updating all that state, we're looking at that mempool and being able to provide that instantaneous feedback for your customer experience. And so by the time you send a transaction, you open up your email app, you'll have an email being like, hey, deposit seen, right?
One thing I love about that is unconfirmed transaction, it's not Bitcoin, but
Sure.
it's confirmation that you sent to the correct address.
Exactly. Anyone who's sending large sums of money.
That is the best thing ever. When you send a large amount, it's like, please,
No typo.
the right address. I checked, but you never know until you see it.
Exactly right. So that's all. Those are like all the kind of the fun things under the hood. There's the whole rabbit hole of different details and how we kind of automatically create the PSBT depending on what spending condition you're executing. We abstract all of that. And it all works really nicely. So for today, we have started with Ledger. I am the number one piece of feedback. You're going to love to hear this, is that the number one requested feedback is one cold card. I have bought a new batch of test queues, and I have a bunch of MK4s laying around. So that will be something that we're eagerly putting a lot of effort into to get that turned on for everyone and the customers.
I mean, but to be fair, Salvatore, the only salvation of Ledger there, he has put in a lot of work on the mini script stuff.
He did.
It really is props to him on that. He's definitely pushed some ground. It's a shame he's stuck with the hardware, but he's definitely moved a lot of that space forward, which is really cool.
Yeah, very, very exciting. It's exciting to be building something now live and having customers really kind of being able to be live in markets, a whole new world.
I think this is very, very cool what you're doing. I do have a question though.
Please, yeah.
Is this open source?
No.
Okay.
Not open source. For the time being, I think what we're going to probably do is release some open source accessories. So like in the event we don't exist anymore, you can take the open source software, you're able to kind of move the funds on your own. I mean, this could be a whole rest of the podcast. I just think structurally, for what we've built, you have the output descriptor and you're able to cross-verify that. So for the sake of your funds and verifying that the vault is what I'm saying it is, you can get that third-party auditability by loading it to core. So like the core vault itself, you're able to get those kind of security assurances and understanding how it works without it being open source. The larger software stack, I mean, we've gone back and forth and debated about it. For us right now, just for being a company like venture-backed and kind of like building this out, it was difficult for me, and maybe Craig, you can convince me of this, just as a business, it was difficult for me to be able to reconcile that we would be getting a return of value commensurate with what we're giving if we were to go open source. There's a lot of people who are like, I wouldn't even say competitors. There's just a lot of people who work at other companies who want the code base. I've gotten on calls with them and they're like, oh, this is amazing. Can I look at all of your code? And I'm like, why would I just give you all my code so then you can just go run off and do this without me? I've been very loud talking about this publicly for 2 years, trying to get people to build this stuff. I haven't hid the ball. I started going down this rabbit hole 2 years ago, and I did live talks and met with a bunch of people saying you should be building this stuff. So it's not like I'm trying to keep it hidden, but from like our actual code infrastructure, I haven't open sourced it for that and other reasons.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Look, I completely understand the pressures to keep it closed source. And it's really good that you can restore the wallet elsewhere, that it's just a standards-based thing. I don't think it's probably not going to impact your business much either way. I mean, if you get to a certain scale, I suspect that people will start to rumble about it. I think the reality is, though, at a certain scale, it doesn't really matter anymore. The software can be recreated.
Totally.
So, it's at a certain point, it kind of actually makes sense because of all the reasons that we open source things, right? To have it, all of the review, to kind of just be part of that sort of ethos. Yeah, I think maybe there'll be a point in the future where you'll say, you know what, it's going to be really hard to replicate the kind of scale of business that we have now.
Yeah.
And that's really actually what is most important here.
I think that's absolutely fair. And to be clear, I've had many open source devs reach out to me asking how to do this. And I've been very generous with my time, helping them like, oh, you need to work on this. You need to do that. Like, this is why you're getting this error. So I'm by no means for people that want to put the dev cycles into building on this, like reach out to me. I'm more than happy to talk about conceptually like design of product or even like the implementation details, like very open on those fronts too. I'd agree with you. I think at a point of scale, it becomes irrelevant. This goes into a larger theory, just like as our business, like software infinitely commoditizes to zero, right? If it's free and open, right? Like ultimately, that's not going to be where you derive margin. That's why on the insurance side, it's interesting because you can't open source capital in the same way. So if you have it, like that would be a differentiator in that sense of that, like our relationship and being able to provide the insurance. is kind of what mitigates it. So it's definitely something that we revisit regularly. I know if we did open source it, it would probably go to a great acceleration for everyone being able to adopt this, right? It would be less of myself, the Bitcoin Keeper guys, and Liana Wallet doing it.
I mean, I think there's a few other aspects here.
Yeah.
So on one side is very unique to your business, like how you guys are doing the wallet and how the infrastructure works and stuff.
Sure.
I think the last few years have sort of eroded a little bit of the confidence that a lot of open source devs that work on a business have with the market in terms of like, because for a long time, there always used to be this sort of like expectation that the community, the customers, they were your last line of defense when it comes to some ethics and morals, right? So, people would make sure to not buy stuff from people who just clone other people, for example, right? And support the people who actually work on the code. But as the market grows, like a lot of people don't give a flying fuck. They just want whatever is the cheapest. And normally the people who copy are the cheapest because they don't invest any money building anything. But that shouldn't be detractor from, doing a solid to the commons and, improving humanity above profit and stuff. There is no easy answers. It's a hard thing. It is a very hard thing. And I think that's why most companies that have a lot of customers, a lot of products, a lot of things, they all do a mix of like different levels of openness and closeness of their source code and their contributions, right? There's a lot of companies out there that love to what they call false wash, right? Like they'll make all kinds of claims about how they're super pro open source, they donate money, whatever. But, you go look at their core stuff, it's all behind servers. It's all like, it's tricky. I do think that, at the end of the day, I mean, FOSS is winning. Like it does win, because information wants to be free. And hopefully we find ways to monetize things so people don't depend on the grace of philanthropy to work, right? To find value and to have a good life. Again, there's no easy answers, contrary to like what Twitter likes to put it. I think people need to do what works for them without shame, without feeling bad, and do the best that they can to contribute back to humanity, with what they have to offer. The world is a very complex place.
The one thing to call out too is you're right, NVK, that the way we use the product is very narrowly specific, tailored to how we use it. So open sourcing that to actually have utility for others, we'd have to like take a bunch of dev cycles on our side to like make a generalizable abstract template, something similar to like the Bitcoin Keeper team does or like Liana Wallet does, to make that all kind of jive together. So it'd be extra, not even just like opening what we have, it'd be like additional work to make it an actual end user product that wasn't just like, here's our code.
Hey, listen, I'm just grateful we have everybody working on Bitcoin.
Rob, maybe you've already done this, but one thing that I would really like to be able to do is to be able to recreate a Trident wallet in Sparrow at some point in the future. So for that, we're obviously need to have the particular mini script that you are using. Is that something you are prepared to share?
Yes. Yeah, no, that's actually fully open. That's been open. I'm going to drop it in the chat right here.
Great.
Yeah.
This has been fully open for a while. This is actually what the Crux team took a look at. And for those, either Johnny can throw it in the show notes, or I'll just say Blockstream has a repo called Miniscript Templates, and it mints, M-I-N-T for short. So Mint 5, we call it joint custody because the nature of it, we have to both co-sign. It has the full output descriptor at the bottom of the link, as well as the reference transactions on Signet showing like this is what a layer 1 spend, layer 2, layer 3, and like how it all kind of like looks on chain. So the answer is, yeah, fully open. And at any point, Craig, you want to like poke around with it, I can give you reference code that kind of like puts it all together. I think the most time consuming parts on your side would be, I mean, it's funny, I've actually used our product, like our setups, and I can load the PSBT into Sparrow. Right. And it'll show most of the script stack element accurately and kind of like do all the mapping out. So like those base tools are already a really close lay there. The assembling of that output descriptor, and then by extension, the derivation of the PSBTs and changing the end lock time when you're generating them would probably be, I'm going to assume, the most time consuming. Because once you have the output descriptor, you basically get this script public key, and just like you do for single sig or multi-sig, you get a different like hash and that maps to an address. It's the same exact concept in, for these more advanced descriptors. You're just doing extra logic steps and stuff. But at any point ever looking through that stuff, that's why the vault's totally open, so you can look at it, cross-verify it. You can give it to someone and have them verify that it's doing what we're saying it's doing. But yeah, that's all open and available.
So it's like, I think like there's a few things that like I'm trying to, because I see companies coming with a lot of quote unquote open source things that are not really open source around. And I think a few things are non-negotiable for the relationship between wallets, signers, and consumers, which is, one is it must be PSBT compatible.
Yes.
So like, and this is absolutely non-negotiable. I cannot in good conscience like suggest people use it, unless maybe they're using some, for like spending amounts, or they're using it for, like some complicated little thing, where it's a cosigner, whatever, right? But if we're talking about like, your real money, and you're talking about like your, like your actual, like, your serious capital, it's like PSBT is mandatory. Why? Because, it creates this detached relationship between the signers and the wallets.
Yes.
So, like it's vendor independent, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is seeds or some way to extract the secret, right? Whatever private key material you choose to use,
mm-hmm.
normally your expriv, if you don't have a seed,
mm-hmm.
from that device, so that you can load it into another device, right? So the secret has to be exportable from the device. And the other thing is being able to export and transfer the script, right? So that
mm-hmm.
you can recover outside of whatever vendor combo you have,
mm-hmm.
right? Like being able to export that script, it's important, because then, Craig can spend another week and integrate one more thing that we can recover on Sparrow. So like, I find that like these three things are like, they should be almost like absolute kind of like religion dogma kind of thing. It's like, if you see wallets not supporting these three things, it's like shit on them publicly. Like, let's shame them into supporting that, because, like the beauty of Bitcoin is vendor independence, right?
Yeah. Also, like specifically that PSBT part and like the output, like that output descriptor format, like if you're not using those codified standards, you're rolling your own entire infrastructure to do it in parallel in a different way. And like very open about like what we're built on is like Rust Bitcoin and Bitcoin Dev Kit. Like there's PSBT libraries and handlers that are used by so many projects that we could just sit right on top of. Right? We don't have to worry about like, is our implementation for how we're codifying pending transactions going to have unintended consequences? We don't have to worry about that because we're built on these like core foundational standards.
Yeah, it's not much to ask. Like it's pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
These are very like, I have my problems with all the standards, but they're all like, wide, and they're kind of like reasonable in some way. It's not like we're asking you to add a bunch of dependencies or anything like that to your project. These are almost dependency like free concepts, right? Like they're almost concepts. They're not even like they just happen to have a spec, It's almost a charter of rights of a Bitcoiner is to be able to be vendor independent. It's like we should all be able to be hit by a bus as a vendor, and you very nonchalantly can just move your shit to other vendor combo and move on with your life. Walletsrecovery.org exists because I got very pissed for many, many, many years with all these fucking projects coming in. They get funded. They're like, hey, we're the coolest wallet now. Look at me, right? Like we just invented this cool new way of doing whatever. We're amazing. We're so easy, right? And then the business changes, or the VCs cut them off, and then they disappear, and with them go any form of recovering the user funds, right? Man, I can fucking rent this for 10 hours. It truly fucking pisses me off. It's the reason why, there's a few new, like amazing new wallets in the market that are from big companies and extremely easy to use, but it's fully fucking vendor specific. You have to use their script to generate some stuff that then you go recover elsewhere.
Totally.
Right? Like that is too much to ask for a user. It's almost better if that user didn't have the Bitcoin in that system to begin with. I rather maybe they have some micro strategy than be stuck with Bitcoin they can spend 10 years from now, right? It would be better for them when you think about it. So anyways, that's how I really feel about it. Craig, I think you have some opinions on this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount of pain that I go through myself that I put Sparrow users through in order to enforce this. For example, I don't allow in Sparrow that you have to explicitly turn off the preference to validate derivation paths to prevent you from using the derivation path for one script type on a different script type. And for sure, this catches people out and they get frustrated and they don't understand why Sparrow doesn't want to save their wallet. And I could take it away, but I don't, because I see it as an overall social good. I want that pain in the world, because otherwise, if we have random script types going on out there, or people reusing script types for reusing different derivation paths for the same script type, we're going to end up with lost funds, and we're going to end up with walletsrecovery.org just getting longer and longer as all these different wallets do it. So for me, that was an important principle in building Sparrow, and I just accept that there's going to be pain as a result. And I'm happy to say there's one wallet out there, well-known wallet, and I managed to convince them to stop using their non-standard multi-sig derivation path and use the standard.
Please tell me it was Big Go.
I'm not going to reveal who it was, but it's one of the things that I'm really proud of, because ultimately that's how people lose funds, by using, as NVK said, some random wallet that is the hot stuff, and then it uses something non-standard in it, and they want to, for whatever reason, they move to a different phone, a different operating system, the wallet itself goes away, who knows? And all of a sudden, they can't access their funds anymore. And it's a real issue, and there's no reason for it to happen. And we all just have to use the same standards in order to avoid that. So, as I say, that's a long rant to kind of say some amount of pain, some amount of friction is actually worth it to ensure that people don't lose funds over the long term.
I think the more easy wallets come into the market, the more it sort of like reiterates my belief that if you're not willing to learn how to drive, okay, don't fucking drive. So it's the same goes for Bitcoin. If you don't want to take responsibility and learn, you're not ready. You're going to get a wallet that's going to tell you that they can do everything for you and is easy and all that stuff, and then you're going to fuck it up somehow because you just didn't learn. Right? I mean, can you imagine you're driving your, automated auto car in the driveway and you pull the handbrake? Unless they take that out too. And then now if there is a problem, you don't have a handbrake. At some point you have to have responsibility. That's the whole point of being sovereign, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want any responsibility, then you use a third party.
Yeah.
There is a bunch of collaborative multi-sig companies out there, and even they use good hardware wallets to make it you learn a little bit. But there is a bunch, even Rob has the co-custody stuff too. It's like there is no shortcuts to being your own bank. Somebody needs to own the shotguns.
I almost want to, in the experience of going through the whole end-to-end experience of building Trident and AnchorWatch, of doing I could probably do 2 hours just on all of the details as a Bitcoin knowledgeable person that I learned building this, understanding the parts of a PSBT, right? And understanding how the PSBT matches to a signer, right? And understanding the BIP32 path keys and the signature field, the partial signature field. There's so much that really a huge credit to builders like you two, right? Craig on the coordinator Sparrow Wallet side and Coinkite on the signer side. So much of this stuff gets abstracted. So if you have simple standards like I have my seed phrase, I have my output descriptor, and everything just works, it really is a monumental lift of doing all of this matchmaking under the hood and kind of the verification of transactions and all of this stuff that just works. And there's so many parts along the way that it really, you have to go out and build one for yourself to be able to fully appreciate, like, here are all the places. Like, I sometimes joke that, like, I'm doing PSBT surgery because I'll just like randomly throw some stuff together and be like, oh, I know this signature's good, but why is it not processing? And then like having to reassemble it all. There's so much happening, and the rabbit hole can go for as deep as you want, but you can get a really great 80-20 trade-off where like you can learn 20% of the details and you're 80% of the way there on being a sovereign individual and being your own bank and having the safety and confidence knowing that no matter what, you're going to be okay.
Because you have vendor independence, right? Like, you can't fuck up the SPAC. So, if Coldcard is not doing the signing correctly or not reading the PSBT correctly from Sparrow, like, shit just breaks, right? And we have a bunch of checks because we don't trust the wallets, right? And they have a bunch of checks because they don't trust the signer. It's like, it truly is a beautiful thing. Right? That's what Bitcoin ethos is this sort of distrust adversarial environment, because trust minimizing things is how we don't change, the Bitcoin supply cap, is how we don't sign things we shouldn't. It's how you keep a system decentralized or distributed, however you want to see Bitcoin, right? It's this adversarial mentality that like each part of the system must have. And listen, it's going to come and go. It's never going to go away. There's always going to be a new project out there that's going to come, try to make it extra easy. It's not out of a bad place. People just want to make things easy so everybody can come and play. But, people are going to get wrecked.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the trends that I've seen that I don't particularly like is like the kind of, oh, well, they should just go and buy the ETF kind of comment is, I mean, yeah, there is obviously some people out there who should just go and buy the ETF. But
yes.
Like, many people should just do the work. Like, really just do the work. Like, don't be lazy. Like, do the work. Figure it out, because the ETF is much poorer. That's the hard truth. It is much, much, much poorer. You don't really own the Bitcoin. We all know this. I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast knows that. But, the danger is that we just end up saying, it's just too hard to educate people. Let's just let them go.
I think there is one more dynamic that's going to sort of like, unfortunately clear out a lot of the lazy people or the people that come much later, which is like, there's not enough UTXOs for everybody. Right? I mean, that is the reality of 21 million or 2.1 quadrillion sats, right? Like, and wealth distribution in general. I mean, it just is like, in 5-10 years from now, like, it's just, you're not going to be able to buy UTXO anymore.
Yeah.
Well, all the more reason to get in now.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Like, it's like you are on a race. Like,
we are a long way away from that today. I think that particular stat, which is completely true, of course, is also very much over talked about in my view.
I don't know, Craig. I was doing the math on this, and at the current price, like and if you do some wealth distribution, like using wealth distribution numbers, even improving them a little bit, it's pretty dire. We're talking about like, you have to be able to essentially like have like $2 in savings.
Sure.
That's priced out already, like a lot of people.
The current fee rate disagrees with you.
We're at a really hot 7 sats per V byte at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's.
We were recently down to like what 1 point something or other. Like
it was 1 this morning.
Yeah,
like 2 hours ago it was 1. People wake up and they start moving funds around, but
we can't. I think there's a far higher danger of the sort of layer one just being the kind of institutional, players only layer. Far higher danger of that.
See, what we want is independent institutions, and as many individuals as we can. But the individual line is like it's kind of like a losing line. I don't like to use that word, but it's kind of like a waning line, right? It's going to be more like individual institutions, individual sort of entities, right? Like you're going to have like family offices or companies or whatever, right? Like, but in different places, in different jurisdictions, and like essentially entities with a lot of corn. right? That will probably be the future that we end up in in a while from now. And that's not a bad thing. Like, as long as there is enough independence in this distribution, we're fine, right? Like, even MicroStrategy is not a bad thing. That means that, like, it's not like some other, like the EU, like, you know what I mean? As long as you have enough of them, right, you're in a good place. I mean, it's like, MicroStrategy is a bit ahead of everybody else on that pile. But aside from that, there is a lot of room still for a lot of people to own a lot of corn. And in the future, it's less likely this will be individuals, because it'll be probably families, right? And then, part of this family, it's just like land, right? Like, land was, for a long time, like, especially as like new places got broken down into pieces, right? To see concessions in Commonwealth. Anyways, that's a whole other conversation. But the point is, people need to fucking learn. It's that's that point. To your point, the more people learn now, the better they're going to be.
And if you don't want to learn, then don't buy the ETF. Go and talk to Rob. Talk to AnchorWatch.
He'll insure it for you.
Of course, talk to me. Happy to talk to you, but also I think just it's an own journey that you have to be competent enough to be able to manage it, right? I've dealt with friends recently who have horrific treasure map stories where they're now a widow and they don't understand anything. There's like a piece of paper that's like, scattered around and go to this and go to there, and they're trying to figure out where their their deceased, often husband's, wealth is. So I would encourage anyone who's doing self-custody. This is like a Bruce Fenton thing. Like, can you pass the Bruce Fenton test of, all right, you just pretend you died. Your family has to be able to recover your money, and they can't talk to you. They can only use the information they already know. Like, making sure that wealth is preserved through generations in the event things have gone horrifically wrong. Are those you care about able to still in some way access the money? And making sure that if those are considerations for why you hold Bitcoin, that you have that stuff figured out, because no grieving widow wants to deal with a treasure map.
Yeah, it's like a lot of programmers who go and write their own sort of huddle solutions. They probably don't have kids yet. So they're still in the Valhalla mental model.
I just never die. Just don't die.
Yeah, and if you do, you take it on with you. And then life happens. And then you have to add new considerations. So please go read BitcoinSecurity.guide and then go learn some more. All right, we have time for a few updates here. Bitcoin Core version 28.1 got released. Some PTP changes. They added testnet 4 section header for the config on the docs. Thanks for letting me know. I think they fixed some issues, some dependency issues on NetBSD. I'm sure there is a few interesting things on this release that I don't know about.
It's the 0.1, so this is usually just like bug fixing stuff.
Yeah,
like it's not a whole. It's not like version 28. It's 28.1. So this is like small bug tweaks and stuff.
Yeah, and we say that, and then we get an actually email. All right, Wasabi version 2.4.0 updated. BDK version 0.30.1 deprecated.
Yes.
So keep that in mind.
Yeah, they're now on 1.0. So that's where they're going forward.
Nunchuk Android version 1.9.59, Taproot multisig wallets, revamp add key flow, Honey Badger Premier. Specter Desktop version 2.1.1. Haven't seen updates in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Add wallet export to Jade via QR. Expose internal nodes to localhost only. HWI upgrade to 2.4x. Make Specter work with Bitcoin Core 28. Remove BLE for Jade. Bitcoin Keeper version 1.3.3, redesign Electrum server management, add Keystone remote signing support, PDF export, and then version 1.3.2, they added a few things. Blue Wallet version 7.0.7, import XPub and ZPub and YPub if ever used.
that first one is actually quite big.
Yes.
Because right now, prior to 7.0.7, if you pasted an XPub into Blue Wallet, it assumed that you were creating a legacy wallet. And then what people would do was they would grab their XPub from Sparrow, they would paste it into Blue Wallet, they'd receive funds to it, and all of a sudden they'd find their funds did not arrive in Sparrow. Why? Because they arrived on a legacy address. So it's the old slip 39 here that's catching us out, where people were basically encoding the script type into the XPub instead of using an output descriptor, which, to your point, NVK, is what people should be using. So this is actually quite an important step forward, because it's going to mean less people are losing money with Blue Wallet, which is obviously a very well-used wallet in this world.
Ouch.
All right, display Lightning details and invoice view, add HKD fiat, and a few other things. BTC Pay Server version 2.0.6. This release contains security fix for merchants using refunds, pool payments on chain with automated payout processors, new features, SEO, and a few other things. Quick rant here. There is absolutely no fucking reason for anybody to do real money operations on a fucking phone. Seriously. Just no. Just don't use a phone wallet. Phone wallets are amazing for you to pay for, the beers at a bar and, maybe check your balance or keep tab of accounting, whatever, or cosign like Nunchuk or,
Right.
But you should absolutely not use a phone wallet, single sig, to do real money shit. It's just no. You have a computer to write proper stuff. You have a computer to check spreadsheet. Bitcoin, real spending is like spreadsheets.
Right.
You want to take a look at stuff. Review things. It's it's brutal.
I couldn't agree more.
Sure, maybe we're desktop boomers, but but non-desktop boomers don't have money anyways, right? I guess. So it's
yeah, I mean, look, there are always pros and cons, but it is really hard to argue that the phone is a more secure place than the desktop. Really hard. There are pros and cons. I know it's a whole debate, but it is really hard. The phones are just not your own hardware.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than that. It's I can make the argument that for most people, an iOS device in lockdown mode is probably 1,000x more secure than anything else they have in their life. Okay, in any sort of shape, form, it is more secure. The problem is apps are reduced usability and visibility for you to be on the go, right? So
right.
And unfortunately, as part of this whole security on how they do security in the walled garden mentality, is you can't take a look under the hood either. So it's essentially any app on iOS, you're essentially trusting the vendor. There is no way for you to build the app on the phone. And Android has no security. It's a fucking disaster. Okay, so don't use Android. It's bad. So you have to pick. You have the Trust Me platform that is secure, but it's Trust Me, which for Bitcoin doesn't work. And you have the Don't Trust platform that is completely insecure, right? So and you have low visibility on both because it's screen size and all the other shit, right? So it's not ideal for you to do your real Bitcoin banking. Let's put it this way, right? Have a desktop, it's have a nice drink with you and sit down, let's do some spreadsheets. It's like the meme version of the glass of wine and the, and the cream. But seriously, it's this is your time now to sort of pay attention. And, also, if you're sending to an exchange, you want to use 2 separate devices to verify that address you're sending to, right? So, you build a transaction in your desktop Sparrow, right? You go and you check maybe through support or maybe to some other medium on the phone with that exchange, if that's the address you're sending to.
Yeah.
You build your transaction, right? I mean, then everything looks good. Then maybe you go to your correct location where you have a hardware wallet to sign, right? Or you take your micro SD card if you're extra smart to the location. You don't even take your computer or your phone with you, right? And you sign it and then you leave it there, right? And maybe you broadcast somewhere else, right? Like you create this beautiful hygiene of doing, signing ceremonies. Yeah, I think that maybe that's it. You should upgrade your marketing, Craig, with like the wine beside Sparrow and like the equivalent of the cream on the other side. Rob, I mean, please steal this.
Go run with it. Yeah, no, I'm going right. I'm right in the marketing channel right now, getting an update to roll things out.
Nice.
That's right.
Yeah, it'll be part of the next rollout.
Thank you. I expect memes on all the vendor wallets to really describe the scene. Liana version 9.0, it's over 90K. That's late. That's an old release. Breaking changes, Liana Demon, GUI. Okay, it looks like lots of like small changes to Liana.
Yeah.
Blockstream Green QT version 2.0.17. Yeah, they still don't have PSPT.
Still?
Yeah. No, there's no PSPT on
the Jade?
The software wallets.
Oh, for the green wallet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other one too. What's the name?
The green wallet.
Yeah, green wallet. But wasn't there another one that they renamed to or something?
Oh, Aqua?
Yes. Also no PSPT support.
Oh.
Yeah. The Jade does have PSPT support.
Yeah.
I have to say, the Jade does. Good.
We're talking about the software wallets.
Yeah. It's one of the few hardware wallets you can actually send an entire PSPT in, and it deals with it, which is nice.
Really? Instead of streaming it byte by byte?
Exactly. It's a whole new world, Rob. You wouldn't believe it.
Lark, right? You did that whole you did the whole HWI reintegration, so you very intimately how each of these processes the data.
Oh, I do. I know. It's actually really, I mean, it's quite interesting because if you ever wonder, like, how does this thing work? Well, I can just go and have a look at the code.
There you go.
I was looking today to see, well, which one of them supports Taproot spending and all of that kind of thing. How do they handle it? And it's all right there. It's very helpful.
Rob, you were not here for the launch of what's the name of the library, Craig?
Lark.
I
think I was on that episode. That's even worse because we talked about HWI for like in 90 minutes. Everyone fell asleep.
It was great,
including you.
Including me. I was on the show. I forgot that I was already here for it. Yeah.
You guys joke, but like, man, it's literally impossible to keep track nowadays. I can't remember the name of any library anymore. It's just too much stuff.
Totally.
All right. BoltzExchange updated, live wallet, an application designed to estimate the effect of Bitcoin transactions fees. Oh, I think we covered live wallet before. Kyoto request the broadcast minimum fee rate connected to peers in version 0.8.0. ESP-Miner updated. Bitcoin Safe version 1.0.1. Add dark mode support. So this project keeps on getting updated. This is like a classic Bitcoiner that just went and created his own solution. It is an interesting UI.
Yeah.
BTC Map updated. Project Spotlight, Bitaxe Touch, a new touch single ASIC chip Bitcoin solo miner, Coinswap, functioning minimal viable binaries and libraries to perform a trustless P2P Maxwell Belcher Coinswap protocol. Holy shit! It's I think it's the first time I read and sort of it clicked the Maxwell Belcher.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird to know the person on the name of some cryptography
of the protocol. Yeah,
that just struck me there. Scure auditor minimal library for creating, signing, and decoding Bitcoin transactions. Bitcoin is dated. A comprehensive Bitcoin metric individualization platform launches 2 new sections related to UTXOs, quantity and UTXO balances of UTXOs. Qoinstr with a Q, a GUI for Rust Joinster. Anything else here? Oh, TollGate, a tool enabling Wi-Fi router to accept Bitcoin payments for internet access. This is kind of tricky because you dox your UTXOs to the thing that's going to then go and read all your internet traffic.
Right.
But maybe it's Lightning, and then it's like a lot more reasonable.
I'd assume Lightning, because metering, like what you have to do, wait for an on-chain confirmation before you get access to the internet. Like
Lightning is such a good like coin join sort of solution for small amounts, like where you're not trying to escape sort of like state actors and you're the risk of death kind of level.
Right.
You know, it's like it really works. I mean, very hard to piece together who's the sender. And even if you find the sender, you know, like it's hard to know who using that node came from. You know, since most people use some form of semi-custodial Lightning, I think is the most used now, aside from custodial Lightning. I think there's very few people still using like that use actual non-custodial Lightning anymore.
No.
But it is the most private way to use it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right.
If you really want to be private, then you should run your own node.
Yeah, but not have a single channel with like a fully KYC'd node out there.
Right. You want multiple node connections and channels.
Right. Vulnerability disclosures. Okay, so unique zero-click de-anonymization attack targeting Cloudflare-backed apps, Signal, Discord, and user vulnerable. This was a very interesting paper written by a 15-year-old. There is a bit of drama and a bit of sort of, excitement into how severe this is. But still, nonetheless, super cool. Very fun read. Highly recommend. You know, just know that, you know, there is no privacy in phones.
No.
UEFI secure boot vulnerability allows bootkit deployment. This is on Microsoft third-party UEFI certificate. So, you know, nobody expects Microsoft to be secure anyways. Google Ad direct users to malicious homebrew clone. Fuck. That's brutal.
It was a Google ad search, so you'd search for homebrew and the top hit would be the mount. Oh, yeah.
Ouch.
Total pwn.
I mean, don't use Google. It's just a very sort of good to beginning of a good life. I mean, you know, if you can use DuckDuckGo, it's like not perfect, but it's very like, I mean, the search is honestly like 10x better than Google, since they use Google API anyways. And I think they're funded by Google nowadays.
Sounds all right. There
is Kaji, there is a bunch of stuff out there. Critical rsync vulnerability on Linux and Unix systems affecting version 3.2.7 to 3.4.0 necessitates urgent updates. It's a huge fucking deal. Everybody uses rsync on their servers. This is how most people do backup. Alternatively, just use FreeBSD and don't update ever. You're probably like 3 versions behind anyways. So it works. January 2025 patch Tuesday, 10 critical vulnerabilities in 80 days among 159 CVEs on CrowdStrike blog. It's all Windows related. Unsecured tunneling protocols expose 4.2 million hosts, including VPNs and routers. Nice one. Apple's Cups printing system vulnerable to spoofing attacks. Oh, Cups. You can always count on Cups. Security researcher Thomas Roth demonstrates cold execution on Apple's AC3 USB-C controller, enabling firmware, extraction, brutal. And if somebody is doing USB in a whole other level is Apple, these guys in the USB is a whole other ball game. So yeah, can you imagine the hardware wallets on USB? See, a lot of people don't know that a lot of the hardware wallets, the way the firmware is loaded into the hardware wallet and how the hardware wallet is programmed is through the USB. And, like most hardware wallets do, decent work at closing that down, but you never know, right? I mean, you never know the bugs you could have, or not even yours. Sometimes it's a chip problem, right?
Right.
And just another reason to never plug any hardware wallets on USB. It is such a clusterfuck of a spec. It's like millions of like,
right.
It's ginormous. In the USB-C, it's like you take your lifetime to read the whole spec kind of thing.
Right.
It's like just not possible, right? So just don't go there. Yeah, don't plug hardware wallets on anything. $5 ranch attacks. A Canadian volunteer moderator on a cryptocurrency forum becomes the target of individuals who believe he possesses significant wealth in Bitcoin. Brutal. 56-year-old man found tied in a car trunk after kidnapping in eastern France. Jesus. There goes France.
Boom.
Vive la France. Like, I mean, Europe is especially complicated because they're road accessible by a lot of poor countries.
Other countries. Right.
Right?
Drive over the border.
Yeah. So, and people don't have guns in France.
No.
Or people don't have guns in Europe. So there is no culture of shooting the bad guys. Pakistani trader kidnapped, forced to transfer 340,000 in cryptocurrency. 7 arrested. Decrypt. Yeah, I mean, guys, there is a bunch here.
Yeah.
Lop has a good list of this stuff too. We think it's important to sort of like list a few of these things so people understand what's going on. It's going to increase a lot. I think we haven't even started to really see the ramp up yet. And then it will die down because, as soon as like it's known that everybody has cryptocurrency of any kind and the security is appropriate, it'll be tricky.
Yeah.
I mean, people get kidnapped in Brazil for Brazilian reais.
Totally.
Which really nobody wants. Imagine what they're going to do to get some corn.
Right.
All right, guys. Anything here?
This is quite interesting. The Tails, I see, has removed support for hardware wallets in Electrum.
Oh.
So apparently Trezor Wallet stopped working in Debian 12, and so in Tails 6. So they have removed that support.
Good to know.
I don't know whether that means like generally hardware wallets. I mean, obviously you can still use QR hardware wallets, I would imagine.
Well, I mean, they had our plugin, like Electrum had our plugin in there. Maybe they just use Trezor wallets as like a general term for hardware wallets. I haven't looked into it. Tails is it's like a love and hate with it. It's like Linux in general. They're very hostile to Bitcoin, so it's very difficult to even know how to navigate that. And it would be amazing if Tails had Sparrow.
Yeah, I've been down that road. In short, to get anything into Tails, you have to get it into the official Debian repo first. In order to get it into the official Debian repo, you have to get somebody from Debian, literally a maintainer, to come and co-sponsor you. And then there's a whole bunch of work. It's like the whole process is very Byzantium. It's not like submit this and then see how it goes. There's a whole backroom kind of affair where you have to, and I'm sure it's possible for me to do. I just really have better things to do with my time than run around trying to get that done.
Right.
Maybe if somebody wants to do that work, they should apply for a grant. Your job is going to be go maintainer and try to like include some wallets on Tails.
Now, that's a great education grant. I'm going to educate the Debian maintainers on making sure this gets added so I can get this into Tails.
No, be huge. I mean, like we need it. Tails is good. It's a better read-only system than anything else out there running on Raspberry Pis. It's like, these guys are real. They care. They know security, right? Like there's real people auditing the stuff. It's grown up kind of like, read-only system. You should have a few wallet options in it, in my humble opinion. But it's going to be very difficult. I did want to mention M17 project. People looking for encrypted comms on radio. There is this new codec protocol that it was very tricky before. You had to alter radios to make it work with them. But a few Chinese manufacturers are starting to pick it up. And, it's complicated because hams can do encrypted as long as the cipher is public. So, maybe just publicize your keys somewhere. If you're a ham, if you're not a ham and you're doing in a location that you can do it, then great. But this is really cool. It's actually AES encrypted comms on voice.
Nice.
And if you know the history of this stuff, let's just say that state actors do not like people having encrypted comms on voice. So it's a guy from Poland, and he got pissed at like all the ham manufacturers making closed protocols. Some of them kind of semi-open, but still like all designed to boot leak. This guy really took this thing to a whole other level, and it seems to be growing. So it's very similar hardware to GMRS. Like, so essentially those like little, it's kind of like walkie-talkies. If you want to be more crude, on 2 meters and 70 centimeters, very common. And there'll be 140-ish megahertz range, and the other one is 400 and something megahertz. Anyways, go check it out. Something tells me that some Bitcoiners are going to end up starting to like have Bitcoin comms, so you can, because there's enough bandwidth to transfer Bitcoin data. Not sure if block data per se, but everything else. The range is spectacular. It's like it's more line of sight kind of tech, but you can have a 10-kilometer line of sight. So
very cool.
So go check it out. It's really cool stuff, and I don't think anybody working on this stuff is a Bitcoiner. So there is like maybe a place there for the meeting of the minds to happen. And
very cool.
They are principled folks on that one. I don't think you have to worry about the licensing changing or anything like that with these guys. I'm just gonna leave it at that. All right, boosts. So Anonymous sent 3K. I don't know who this Rob guy is, but congrats to him on the launch of his new fishing company. That's amazing. That is so good. Next one is Menbit. What is LTM?
I don't know.
I'm going to have to Google it. Aji Choti. I see the new EP out, and I don't even need to see what else is out there. I feel you. And BTC on board. The people using Miniscript are people too, despite their extra autism. NVK.
That's right. We're real people.
Yeah.
We're real people. We're out there. We're real people.
I know. It's clearly true. I mean, it was hard to believe at first, but it's clearly true. I think that's it, guys. Any final thoughts, Mr. Rob?
Yeah. Final thoughts. Thanks for having me as always. Love that. I think now we're in the phase of the market where nothing's going to happen. Everyone's kind of checked out. There's no more software updates ever again. No. It's thanks for having me on as always. Always a great discussion. I'd encourage anyone who's self-custody, take a little bit of time and just, one, check your setups, check your recovery, make sure that the ones that you love, that you want to make sure have access to your Bitcoin when you die, make sure they understand how they can touch the Bitcoin, right? Check your wallets, plug them in every once in a while, make sure nothing's bricked or there's no issues. That'd be just do a little bit of hygiene, right? Because the price is going to get crazy and you want to do it now at 100K and not 500K Bitcoin, right? So do your do all your hygiene stuff now and get it out of the way, and take a little time to learn more about your setup for sure. And if you're interested in learning more about the stuff I'm doing at AnchorWatch, just email me at rob@anchorwatch.com or go to anchorwatch.com and drop your email in for the email list.
Yeah, send him all your mini script questions.
That too. Yeah, if you're a dev, seriously, hit me up. Open book. Happy to talk about it.
He does help a lot of people. Craig, any final thoughts?
Yeah, from my side, the integration of Lock, the new alternative to HWI into Sparrow is going well. It's pretty much done at this stage, so there should be a release in the next week or two with that in it, and a whole bunch of other little things that people have been asking for. So I'm looking forward to that. As I say, it's really nice having all of that stuff kind of in-house, as it were. And beyond that, I'm off to adopting BTC in Cape Town conference tomorrow. So by the time this comes out, I imagine it'll probably be done. But I know all the sessions are being recorded, and it is something a little different. It's kind of a local African conference. So might be worth having a look at if you are hearing this next week.
Very cool. Guys, thank you so much for joining. I'm always eternally grateful that some folks want to come talk a little bit about software, and we didn't spend an hour talking about ETFs. So you guys have a great day. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. For more resources, check the show notes. We put a lot of effort into them. And remember, we don't have a crystal ball, so let us know about your project. Visit bitcoin.review to find out how to get in touch.